Welcome to another Demarcation Media Mega Construx review. Today we are going to be taking a look at the buck figures that we've gotten throughout the years, which is a really small amount. We've only gotten 2 ever. With Rookie, we've gotten like 3 or 4 versions now, buck. Up until the release of the Wombat, I say release of the Wombat, we haven't had another buck. So, let's go ahead. We're going to take a look at each of these figures separate and then bring them back together and kind of compare the two, see which one is the definitive buck that you should have in your collection. So this guy came in Halo Heroes Series 1 and has been our one and only buck for years. And he's a pretty darn expensive figure. The prices are going down a little now, but for a long time he was expensive just because Series 1 is expensive and people wanted their buck figure to complete Alpha 9. He came armed with this AR, which is one that we saw many times. It's not unique really at all by any means, but it's pretty nice. And then Buck himself had some pretty nice printing. Gray chest plate, black on the helmet, pretty nice visor. His little comms thing on his helmet was painted. Got some little like whitish on his shoulders. And then he has the light gray accents, which is a little odd because that's not quite accurate to the game. He really should have a darker color there and then a little bit of camo. But he had his fingerless gloves. He had his little knife stuck on there, which can be removed, but they're really easy to lose. No print around the back really at all, but pretty nice figure. He looks pretty good, and he is honestly held up pretty well, I would say, to the newer figures. Mega's been kind of improving how much detail they put on figures for a while, and this guy, he held up, I would say, pretty solidly overall. And then the Wombat was revealed, and we got our second buck figure. And this figure has been changed a lot. So we have darker colors all around, as it should be. More, well, maybe not more. Kind of a greenish color scheme because it matches ODST's kind of moody lighting. Really nice detailing. We have his name on there now, Buck. We've got the UNSC symbol, and then it says UNSC down here. He's got his knife. Black print for either side of these little details on there. He's got nothing on this shoulder, but he's got his blood type, which I think wasn't his O positive? Or it should have been on both sides. There was something odd about that detail. Got really no print on the legs, but he's got differing colors for the forearms and the thigh plates as opposed to the upper armor and the lower legs. His head has some really nice detailing with the black. Visor looks really nice, but there's no print for the little comms thing, which is unfortunate. And there's no print for the straps. And that's a bit of a bummer because the rest of the new Alpha 9 does have those straps. So I don't know. I'm not sure why Mega avoided it this time. No print around the back, but I don't know. There's something about that mold that's looking extra sharp. I don't know. Maybe it's just my lighting in my studio. Does have a bit of a sprue mark on the back of his head, unfortunately. But this figure is a much needed re-release. I think it was a long time coming, and it's time to get them side by side and see which one of these two figures is the definitive buck. I actually forgot to point out this buck has just a normal, newer style AR. It's got the rail on the top. It can fit muzzle flares, and that's about it. No printing. This one is too big and bulky, and the barrel is too thin to fit muzzle flares. So, side by side, I would say right away the newer buck is more accurate. Color-wise, more accurate in terms of some of the details, like having his name on the chest plate. That's a huge deal. Having the blood type is a huge deal as well. I think that's a massive upgrade. He's still got the fingerless gloves. Mine has a little bit of a misprint, but not everybody's will have that. The head is more accurate as well. Buck really should not have this much black. The black should not go all the way down. I actually looked at reference pictures a lot when I got the new Alpha 9 figures, trying to figure out where the inconsistencies were, like where it wasn't quite accurate. And Buck really should have had this printed. This is more accurate. Like that, it really needed some print. He really needed the strap print as well, and then he needed some more detail on one of his shoulder armors. And like I said, I think his blood type is listed wrong. I could be remembering that incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure I looked it up, and he should have O positive. Don't quote me on that, though. I could be wrong. And then the change of the accent color is good because, yes, Buck does have slightly different color for the legs, but it really was more the camo that made it different, and they just went with all light colors. Now, you could take the camo from the Hornet ODST and put it on this guy, but that would still be a bit bright. On the plus side, the greens here, or like the kind of gray-green, are pretty much identical. So you can pop and swap parts between the two if you want. You could swap the head over. Personally, I like this head more, even though the little comms thing is not printed. But that is just me. And then this Buck does have more print on the shoulders, technically, because he has one more printed shoulder. But as a whole, I really do think that the new Buck is a much needed upgrade and just looks better overall. I feel like that's the end of story for me. This guy is the definitive Buck. Well, there you have it. That is both of the Buck figures that Mega has made, and I would say that they're both still pretty darn good. The old Buck, he still matches the old Alpha 9, so he's still fairly relevant. So if you have the old Alpha 9 figures, then you're definitely going to want Buck. But if you want a just better in general Buck, this guy right here, and he's a lot easier to get. Well, okay, hold up. He theoretically should be easier to get, but he's not exactly. The Wombat is still kind of releasing because Mega does these weird, like, oh, it's coming out in this time period, and then it just kind of slowly trickles out. It's becoming more and more available. I know in Canada, some people can go into Walmarts and buy it off the shelf. Buying it online is getting easier. So getting this Buck is slowly getting easier, and it's better to get this guy and get the Wombat and the Brute and have to pay a little bit more for that than pay like $40 to $60 just for this figure, because I do think this guy just looks better. And the more overall monochrome color scheme fits the subdued, rainy tones of ODST a lot better. And this guy also matches all the ODSTs from the drop pods. Mostly. He just needs the strap print, which is unfortunate. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time.